because the work I've been doing on myself over these last few years, and that has involved me to dive into research and dive into a lot of courses and the functional medicine side, is how we can get our brain working as effectively as possible in order to improve our own self-confidence, improve our health, and improve our output when it comes to work. And there are certain things that we can see happening in our brain that we get frustrated with. And what is important to know is that, excuse me, wherever we are on this planet, whoever we are, and wherever we are in our own individual lives, is that we will always have some level of inflammation in our body. Depending on the day of the week, it's going to go up and down, depending on the exposure we have to certain chemicals, depending on the weather, depending on the moon cycles, depending on how much we have trained when it comes to exercise, depending on the food we've eaten. But there are certain things you can see that kind of rear their ugly head when it comes to brain health and how we can see the information in our brain and how much it's building up. Now, the first thing we need to know is that your brain is connected to other organs around the body. And one of the ways it's kind of interlinked is we have a thing called the vagus nerve. Now, this vagus nerve is going to send different signals in, and that is very, very crucial that we have good tonnage. We have a good communication between our brain and our gut and other organs of the body. And we call this vagal tone. And the first thing that a lot of people struggle with is actually having good vagus tone or vagal tone with the vagus nerve. And that can then mess up so many different forms of signaling. So then these signals, if you imagine a big thing like Chinese whispers, these signals get confused. That in itself can cause problems with inflammation in the brain. And it causes more stress. When we're stressed, they get more and more confused. It causes inflammation. The problem with inflammation, it causes stress. The problem with stress, it causes inflammation. We start getting this vicious circle that we end up kind of being trapped into. And that then goes into things like your liver, things like your pancreas, your kidneys, your gut. If we're not eating the right foods and we don't have the best gut health, that then can lead to more inflammation, again, messing up these signals to the brain. As you can see, there's a massive connection between your brain and the rest of your body. They are not different things. They are all one. And when I work with clients, we work from that top-down approach. So we look at what your history with health is, what has got you up to this point right now, and how can we kind of put the pieces together. So if you've been frustrated with certain things, not able to lose weight, or struggling with autoimmune conditions and just struggling with having your productivity as good as it could be, we will sort that. Now, how can you tell if your brain isn't working as well as it could? Well, the biggest thing that people suffer from, and it may be yourself, is brain fog. Now, brain fog, I describe it as you're sitting there, you want to get your work done, and it just feels like you're just banging your head against a brick wall. That is brain fog. You know you need to move forward, but you're sitting there, just can't do it. You're staring at a screen. You end up watching cat videos on YouTube rather than being productive. I hate cats. No offense if you're a cat person. I'm a dog person. I trust dogs. I've never trusted cats. And I think one of the reasons is that I used to be allergic to cats. But that's another story. Other things that happen is that you have variations in your mental speed. So one day you're totally on it. The next day you are very low. And you have variations in your brain endurance. You can go for an hour with typing and writing your next blog, writing your next Facebook post, writing your next book. But then all of a sudden that speed slows down. And the more stressed you are, the less time you can actually do it. So I find people will have this slump in the afternoon if they've not got good brain function. And then we have other things that happen. So when you get exposed to certain chemicals, they then impact the way your brain works. So for example, someone has an aftershave on that smells awesome, but you start sniffing, you start getting a headache, you start needing to rub your eyes, or you have an exposure, someone has hairspray, someone's used paint and all these different things. And these chemicals then you get exposed to these and you have symptoms of brain fog, headaches, migraines, you feel sick, you feel lethargic, all these things happen. And the last one, when we look at the subtle signs of brain inflammation in essentially the first stage, is that you have reactions to foods. So you eat certain things and they make you feel a little bit more bloated, or you eat something and then you just feel unmotivated afterwards, all these things. So there's simple signs that you've got inflammation going on. Now, the problem is so many people have brain fog. So many people have variance in their mental speed. So many people have poor brain endurance and they react to chemicals without even knowing it. And that's when that inflammation escalates and then gets into stage 2. And that is where we have moderate signs. So we have things like depression that comes along, anxiety. You are very, very unable to concentrate for long periods. So you start watching something on your screen and you end up that you're pausing it to do something else. You've then got to do 4 or 5 tasks at once. You are struggling with concentrating for long periods. We then get into sleep and you're waking during the night. So if you're someone that is waking during the night, you're unable to get back off to sleep, or you're waking between the hours of 3 and 5 and not able to get back to sleep because you're wired. Not only is it potentially blood glucose problems going on and management there with hyperglycemia, but that could be a massive sign that you have pretty well established levels of inflammation in your brain. So this is where you really want to look into how can you lower that inflammation. If you're one of these people that wakes up to go to the toilet, then we want to look at that. And then even when you do get your sleep in, so say you get that magic 8 hours of sleep, then what happens? Well, you need more. You have more lethargy, you have more fatigue, you have lack of motivation, and maybe even you don't even want to eat, your appetite goes, and you just have this kind of overall inability to be physically active. And that is where we're kind of in the second stage of the levels of brain inflammation. So we've had subtle, we're now into moderate. Then we get into stage 3, which are very, very severe, and it takes a lot of undoing. And this is where there's a lot of confusion going on in our brains. There's potential dizziness, there's potential seizures. You very much struggle to actually speak properly. And even things like tremors, twitching, involuntary, like when someone's got a tick, those sorts of things. They're things that are showing there are many things going on in your brain. So have a little think about the things that I've mentioned here. Things like brain fog, things like variance in your mental speed, things like reduced brain endurance. Like if you have exposure to chemicals, if you have just unknown times where you get towards the end of the week and suddenly you feel awesome on a Monday or Tuesday, Wednesday goes down, Thursday, Friday, you just need that weekend to recharge. Have a think about how your brain is working. Is it when you get fatigued, you start craving more? Do you struggle with sleep? Because these are all signs that you might have inflammation at quite established levels within your brain. And the problem is when we let them go forward, when we let them increase and get more and more established, it's harder to reverse them. So if you really, really want to push forward in your business, with your relationships, then look at, are these things going on? Okay, yes, they are. How can I help these? Is it diet? Is it not exercising as much? How can we lower the stress? Is it around your environment with chemicals? What can you do? And I would love to know if you are suffering from some of these things. Simply drop a comment, drop me a message. And honestly, like, drop me a message personally if you don't want to put it in the comments, and we can jump on a call and we can chat about these. And I will see how I'm able to help you with your brain inflammation right away.